300 years ago, 5 heroes rose to save the world. But for one of them, death wasn't the end, it was only the beginning of a long, exhausting afterlife. Back then, the world burned. The skies were choked with demonic dragons, their massive wings casting darkness over a land already torn apart by war. In the heart of that chaos stood the Demon King's fortress, an ugly scar on the world, pulsing with evil. Inside, shattered stone and fallen weapons told the story of countless failed battles. Everything was silent. It was the calm before the final storm. Here, the legendary hero Vermouth and his 4 companions prepared for their last fight. They had already slain 3 of the 5 Demon Kings. Now, only 2 remained. The end was close enough to taste. Without hesitation, they charged. They moved like a storm of color and steel, cutting through a corridor crawling with demons. Red eyes flickered in the dark, an army of horrors waiting to devour them. Towering beasts in armor, winged creatures dripping with malice, an unending wave of nightmares. At the front was Vermouth. His golden eyes locked forward, his focus razor-sharp. A surge of blue light gathered around his arm, power coiling like lightning waiting to strike. Then, he moved. His blade sliced through the air, a streak of brilliance tearing a path straight through the horde. A heartbeat later, the world exploded into white. When the light faded, the ground ahead was clear. The demons? Gone, erased in an instant. That was Vermouth, the great hero. Calm, unstoppable, and terrifyingly precise. Behind him, the party's archmage stepped up. Staff raised, eyes burning with focus. A slow, confident smile curved her lips. Against this many enemies, she didn't just stand her ground, she relished it. The crystal atop her staff glowed gold, brighter and brighter until it hummed with raw energy. Then, with a flick of her wrist, she unleashed chaos. Fire and ice collided in a storm that tore through the demon ranks, ripping apart everything in its way. They called her Sienna the Wise. And from the way she smirked, it was clear she enjoyed proving it. As the echoes of her spell faded, another figure stepped forward. Her long blonde hair caught the fading light as she pressed her hands together in prayer. A warm, divine glow wrapped around her, gentle, yet unshakably powerful. She called out. A blessing, her voice calm and steady as light ripples out from her like a warm wave. Her power washes over her comrades, bolstering their strength for the battle ahead. But focus can be dangerous. From the shadows, a demon lunges, snarling, claws outstretched, aiming straight for the seemingly defenseless healer. It never stood a chance. Without even opening her eyes, she swings her holy mace in one clean arc. The weapon connects with a crack that echoes through the corridor. The demon collapses instantly, skull crushed, body limp. Without missing a beat, she lowers her weapon and resumes her prayer as if nothing happened. This was Anis the Faithful, soft-spoken, serene, and stronger than anyone dared to guess. Then, the ground shakes. A massive, armored boot crashes down, grinding a demon's head into the stone. Standing over it is a mountain of a man, his muscles coiled with raw power. With a roar that could shake the heavens, he raises a 2-handed axe and swings it like it weighs nothing. The weapon whistles through the air, cleaving through monsters and sending bodies flying in every direction. When the chaos settles, he stands tall amidst the wreckage, blood dripping down his armor, a proud grin spreading across his face. That was the brave one, and judging by that grin, he was enjoying every second of it. And then there was the last member of the group, Hamel, the red-haired warrior. He wasn't leading the charge or calling out orders. He was just running. Fast. Fueled by sheer pride and a stubborn need to prove himself. "Don't you dare get ahead of me," he shouted, voice echoing through the hall. For him, this wasn't a battle, it was a race. He pushed forward recklessly, his only goal to catch up to Vermouth. His sword flashed wildly, each swing driven by pure fury. Where Vermouth's strikes were graceful and precise, Hamel's were raw, brutal, and untamed. He tore through the last few demons, his blade moving faster than thought, his breath ragged with adrenaline. They called him the Foolish Hamel, a name that would somehow survive centuries. When the final demon fell, Hamel exhaled, satisfied. He'd finally caught up. But his moment of victory lasted only a heartbeat. Something was wrong. As the dust cleared, Hamel's eyes widened. His face went pale. He saw something the others didn't, a blur of darkness too fast to comprehend. Panic seized him. "Vermouth!" he shouted. The warning came too late. A monstrous claw shot forward, faster than lightning. Vermouth froze, caught completely off guard. And in that instant, Hamel didn't think. He just moved. He threw himself in front of Vermouth. The claws punched straight through his chest. The world went silent. The pain hit like fire. Blood spilled from his lips as his knees buckled. Vermouth could only stare, eyes wide, shock locking him in place. The Demon King loomed above them, massive, merciless, its jagged arms still buried in Hamel's chest. Buried in Hamel's body. The wound is fatal. He crumples to the floor. The Demon King withdraws its arm and watches him fall with cold indifference. With a triumphant screech it lunges again, blasting a wave of dark energy meant to end them all. This time, Vermouth is ready. The calm that usually sits in his eyes vanishes, a hard resolve takes its place. He meets the blast head-on, the impact cracking the stone beneath their feet. Vermouth surges forward, sword blazing with a light that swallows the Demon King's darkness. In one final, thunderous strike, grief and fury driving every motion, he obliterates the Demon King. The monster explodes into nothing. The others rush to Hamel's side, shouting his name as they gather around his still form. Vermouth stands over him, shoulders heavy with the weight of what just happened. Hamel forces a tired smile and tells him, with what strength he has left, that this is enough, an honorable end for a warrior. He reaches out a blooded hand and urges Vermouth on, "You have to defeat the Demon Kings." Vermouth clasps his hand. A promise passes between them without words. Vermouth's voice is rough as he swears an oath. He will slay every last one of the Demon Kings. Hearing that, Hamel's breathing evens. He turns his fading gaze to Anis and asks her to pray. He looks at the giant warrior, __, and tells him he was the bravest man he ever knew. Finally his eyes fall on Sienna, she bows her head. Hamel struggles for the last thing he'd never dared say aloud. "To be honest, I never liked you." A young boy with messy white hair slams a book shut and yells, "I didn't say that." He trembles, fists clenched around the cover. How many times had he gone over this line? He fumes at the thought of who, Bast, was it, wrote the children's book and gave all of them such grand titles. The great, the wise, the faithful, and the foolish Hamel. The wise. The faithful. The brave. And him? Hamel the foolish. The words echo in his head, an insult that stings even 3 centuries later. He slams the book shut and tosses it aside. "Unbelievable," he mutters, fuming. How could they let this ridiculous version of their story exist? Didn't anyone care about his name, his honor? Then he stops. A bitter realization hits him. Of course they didn't. None of them ever imagined he'd be around to read it. After all, Hamel died 300 years ago. He exhales slowly. The weight of that truth sinks in once again. He runs a hand over his face, tracing the unfamiliar lines of a body that isn't his. This skin, this world, none of it belongs to him. His eyes drift to the grand portrait hanging on the wall. The painting glows softly, the image of a man immortalized in legend, the great hero, Vermouth Lionheart. And Hamel can't help but let out a quiet, almost disbelieving laugh. Because fate, with its twisted sense of humor, had brought him back, reborn not just anywhere, but as a descendant of Vermouth himself. His new name, Eugene Lionheart. Age, 13. As Eugene wraps his training bandages, his mind wanders to the man he once called both rival and friend. He'd recently learned that Vermouth, the paragon of virtue, had apparently taken on several concubines in his later years. Unbelievable, Eugene mutters again, shaking his head. Guess even the great hero was still human. But in the Lionheart clan, bloodline is everything. Only the descendants of Vermouth's first wife are considered true heirs. The rest, children of concubines and branch families, carry the same name, but not the same privilege. For them, rules are strict. They aren't allowed to wield real swords or channel mana until completing a special rite of passage. That meant Eugene, once a hero, now just a branch child, had been stuck swinging a wooden sword for years. He looks down at it now. Light, fragile, unimpressive. And yet, a small grin tugs at the corner of his lips. Because today, this will be the last time he ever uses one. He exhales. Then moves. In an instant, he explodes into motion, fast, precise, relentless. His eyes sharpen, a glint of that old warrior's focus flashing through them. The wooden sword blurs, cutting through the air with such speed it leaves streaks of light in its wake. Each strike lands heavier, faster, sharper than the last. Then, with a final, devastating blow, the dummy in front of him splits apart, and so does the sword. The flimsy weapon shatters into splinters, pieces scattering across the ground. The impact leaves the floor cracked, the air vibrating with the sheer force behind that swing. Nearby, a man watching the entire thing stands frozen, eyes wide. A bead of sweat trails down his face. He finally sighs, exhausted. "You've broken it again." Eugene turns toward him. His voice is calm, his expression unreadable. "Father." Guard's hand lingers on his son's shoulder for a moment longer than it should. His grip is firm, but his expression uneasy. He's proud, but terrified all the same. How could he not be? He looks at Eugene, his 13-year-old boy, and can't help but feel a strange, gnawing fear. That physique, that focus, those eyes. They don't belong to a child. How is that the body of a 13-year-old? Even worse, a small voice whispers in the back of his mind, if they ever fought seriously, he wasn't sure he'd win. A chill runs through him. Eugene isn't violent. He isn't cruel. But there's something unnatural about him. That golden gaze, calm, ancient, and utterly unreadable, makes Guard's chest tighten every time it lands on him. And then there's the thing that haunts him most. When Eugene's mother died, the boy hadn't shed a single tear. No crying. No sadness. Just silence. That same, eerie composure he still carries now. Eugene kicks aside a piece of the shattered wooden sword, muttering, "The blacksmith in this town is hopeless." He holds up the splintered hilt, eyes narrowing. Trash like this shouldn't even be sold. The man deserves a whipping for calling himself a craftsman. "You're too soft on him, father." Guard clears his throat awkwardly, caught between embarrassment and confusion. "I'll give him a warning," he says quietly. Eugene just exhales, uninterested. Trying to change the subject, Guard says, "Tomorrow's the blood succession ritual." The words hang in the air. Outside, sunlight spills across the Lionheart estate. A beautiful day, the calm before everything changes. Eugene's expression hardens. The blood succession ritual. A ceremony held every 10 years, where every Lionheart child between the ages of 10 and 15 gathers at the main estate. They duel, compete, and prove who is worthy to carry the family name. But Eugene knows better. It's nothing but a show, a tradition designed to remind the branch families of their place. The main line's children have trained with mana and real weapons since they could walk. The branch families? Wooden swords and scraps. It's a rigged game, one meant to keep them beneath the true heirs. Eugene grits his teeth but keeps his expression cool. Guard watches him in silence, his heart heavy. If only he'd been born into the main family, he thinks. Or maybe it'd be better if he wasn't this gifted at all. Then he wouldn't have to carry that burden. Eugene notices the flicker of pity on his father's face. His jaw tightens. "Why are you looking at me like that?" he asks flatly. Guard pinches the bridge of his nose, sighing. "It's nothing." "Nothing, here?" Eugene thinks bitterly. He's blaming himself again. Guard's hand drops onto Eugene's shoulder, firm and deliberate. "Listen to me," he says quietly but with authority. "Don't even think about challenging the main family. I mean it. No matter how skilled you are, you're not ready. Don't do anything reckless." Eugene looks up at him, eyes bright, his tone calm and reassuring, almost too calm. "Of course, father. I wouldn't dream of it." But the spark in those golden eyes says otherwise. "Okay, I won't," Eugene says lightly. But in his head, as if. A wicked grin tugs at the corner of his lips. A skills competition against a bunch of spoiled brats? How tedious. His eyes flick to the shattered dummy in the corner of the yard, his thoughts sharpening. His father had already told him the lineup: 3 from the main family, 6 from the branches. Among the main line, 1 was the official heir, the other 2, twins. The rest? Probably nothing worth remembering. He lifts the broken hilt still in his hand, the edges rough against his palm. His grip tightens. As he moves through his training stances, slow and deliberate, something fierce begins to stir inside him, a pulse of energy that feels both old and new. A sharp smile cuts across his face. His golden eyes gleam. "Let's see," he murmurs under his breath, "just how great the descendants of Vermouth the Great really are." The next morning, a carriage rumbles along a quiet, winding road toward the Lionheart main estate. The sun is bright, the air calm, but inside the carriage, the silence is heavy. Eugene sits still, gaze fixed on the rolling horizon, lost in his thoughts. Back when he was Hamel, he'd always believed he was exceptional. Stronger, faster, sharper than everyone else. Everything came easily. He'd never once doubted it. But the memory that surfaces now cuts deep. A younger Hamel, angry, red-faced, yelling at Vermouth across the campfire. "What did you just say to me?" Vermouth's voice echoes in his mind, calm and unshaken. "I said, it's a shame. You could be so much stronger if you just tried a little harder." Even now, the words make Eugene's blood boil. He remembers shouting back, "Can't you see I'm trying? I'm giving it everything I've got." He'd pointed straight at Vermouth, furious. "Just because you're a genius doesn't mean the rest of us can be like you." 300 years later, sitting in that carriage, Eugene finally exhales, slow, bitter laughter slipping out. Turns out, he mutters, he was right. He wasn't the genius. Not even close. The true genius was Vermouth Lionheart, the man who mastered both sword and sorcery, whose power earned him the title God of War. After the Great War ended, Vermouth became a duke, a legend, celebrated until the day he died. Eugene leans back, staring at the ceiling of the carriage as the wheels clatter beneath him. His thoughts drift to the others, his old comrades. Sienna the Wise, that smug witch became the youngest magic tower master in history. Anis the Faithful, that rotten woman turned into a saint so revered they built temples in her name. And, the brave, that big idiot, actually founded an entire kingdom. They all lived long, happy lives. A bitter chuckle escapes him. His hand tightens on the seat until his knuckles turn white. So why is the Demon King still alive? He can still see it, the memory of that last battle, the Demon King's fortress, Vermouth standing over him, swearing an oath drenched in blood and grief. "I'll kill them all," Vermouth had vowed. Eugene's eyes narrow as he stares out the window. The thought chills him to his core. He died in the Demon King's castle. So why does that cursed name still exist, 300 years later? Limits. No matter what his last name says, Eugene knows the truth, he's an outsider here. The carriage jolts as it rolls over the cobblestone, and his gaze drifts back out the window. In the history books, it's written that the war ended not through Vermouth's final victory, but through a promise, a secret deal made between the great hero and the Demon King. A deal that came right after Hamel's death. That mysterious promise supposedly brought peace to the world, a peace that has somehow lasted 300 years. But the question burns in Eugene's mind, what was that promise? And more importantly, why did Vermouth break his vow to kill every Demon King? He clenches his fist on his knee, knuckles whitening. "I'll find out. Whatever it takes." Across from him, the man seated in the carriage clears his throat. "You must be nervous," he says with a laugh. Eugene looks up. It's Lord Gordon, another member of a lesser branch family. The man practically radiates smug self-importance, his voice dripping with false sympathy. "If you're this tense now," Gordon says, grinning, "you'll have a hard time at the main estate." Eugene smiles sweetly, his expression polite and harmless. "Thank you for the advice, Lord Gordon." But behind that practiced smile, his eyes are ice. The carriage rumbles past a massive, ornate gate, its ironwork glinting in the sun. Gordon sits up straighter, puffing out his chest like he owns the place. "From here on, we are officially on Lionheart property," he declares proudly. Eugene resists the urge to roll his eyes. "It's not even your land, old man. What are you so proud of?" Gordon keeps talking, oblivious. It's such a vast property, isn't it? Though it can be inconvenient at times. Thankfully, the main family has installed several warp gates for quick travel. Eugene raises a brow, his polite mask slipping for a fraction of a second. Warp gates, here? Then why are we in a carriage? Gordon chuckles, smug as ever. Ah, well, we haven't exactly been granted permission to use them. Eugene exhales through his nose, his lips curving in a calm, insincere smile as he leans back and shuts his eyes. Figures. The horses press on, hooves clopping against the stone path as the grand expanse of the Lionheart estate stretches before them, rolling hills, immaculate gardens, and a horizon crowned by a colossal mansion that seems to scrape the sky. When they finally stop, Gordon steps out first, his voice swelling with fake grandeur. Welcome, he announces, spreading his arms dramatically, to the home of the Lionheart patriarch. Eugene steps down beside him, silent. His eyes lift slowly to the mansion towering before him. A fortress more than a home, walls of pale stone, banners of gold and crimson fluttering proudly in the wind. The golden lion crest is everywhere, carved into pillars, engraved on doors, embroidered into every flag. Vermouth's legacy looms over it all, a constant, unrelenting reminder of the bloodline Eugene carries, and the burden it brings. The courtyard is empty. Not a soul waiting to greet him. Of course, he thinks dryly. Why would there be? He knows exactly where he stands here, beneath the main family, beneath the rules, beneath the shadow of Vermouth himself. And yet, as he walks toward the castle gates, the wind whips around him, catching in his hair and tugging at his clothes. His steps are calm. Measured. Because while the others see just another branch child arriving for the ritual, Eugene Lionheart, once Hamel the Foolish, is already planning to tear down everything this family stands for. He sighs through his nose, a faint smirk tugging at his lips. Of course, he thinks. Can't forget to remind me I'm not one of them. Lord Gordon clears his throat and gestures grandly toward the path ahead. You're the first to arrive, Eugene, he says, puffing up with pride. Allow me to show you to your quarters. The guest house turns out to be a mansion of its own, massive, ornate, and surrounded by gardens so meticulously kept they almost seem unreal. When the door opens, a young maid greets them with a practiced curtsy. Her hair is tied neatly back, and though she tries to project confidence, there's a nervous stiffness in her movements. Welcome, young Master Eugene, she says politely. My name is Nina. I'll be attending to you for the duration of your stay. She presents a small silver bell on a tray. If you need anything, just ring this. Eugene accepts it with a nod, studying her carefully. She seems genuine enough, but his mind is already working through the details. So, they assign me a personal maid. How generous. He leans back slightly on the bed, eyes narrowing in thought. 16, new to service, freshly trained. Of course. They gave me a rookie on purpose. A smirk curls at the edge of his mouth. If she messes up, the blame lands on me. A neat little setup to remind the branch boy where he belongs. He looks up at her. How old are you, Nina? 16, sir, she says quickly. I just completed my servant training last month. Of course you did, he murmurs under his breath. He stands suddenly, his movements smooth and deliberate. Tell me, he says, when will the others arrive? She blinks, caught off guard. The main family and the other branches? Within 4 days, sir. 4 days, Eugene repeats, his grin widening. That's plenty of time. He takes a step toward the door. Take me to the training grounds. Right now, sir. Nina stammers. But you've just arrived, and you haven't. Now. Her words die in her throat. She bows quickly and scurries ahead to lead the way. From a balcony high above, 2 figures lean lazily over the railing, watching them cross the garden. The boy, Scion Lionheart, rests his chin on his hand, eyes narrowed in mild disdain. His twin sister, Sile, leans beside him, her long hair fluttering in the breeze. What's his name again? Scion asks, voice full of boredom. Eugene, Sile replies. Same age as us. Cyan's lips curl into a smirk. From some backwater branch on the Empire's edge, wasn't he? Ha! Probably more familiar with a rake than a sword. He pinches his nose with mock disgust. And that carriage he came in? Filthy. I should have the servants wash the road after him. Cyle claps her hands, grinning. You're so right. We should go give him a little talking to. Cyan straightens, brushing imaginary dust from his sleeve. Not a talking to, he says coolly. A warning. He turns toward the stairs. Let's go, Cyle. She giggles behind him. You're too kind, dear brother. And from another window, someone else watches quietly as the arrogant twins descend toward the gardens, expression calm, eyes sharp. Whoever they are, they seem far less amused. Because the twins have no idea what kind of monster they are about to warn. Nearly bursts out laughing. Her golden eyes gleam with excitement, catching every word as if this were the most entertaining thing she'd seen all day. She leans closer to her brother, her voice a low whisper. Brother, that country boy just called you an idiot. That's all it took. Cyan freezes. His face twists in fury, veins bulging as he grinds his teeth. How dare he? He clenches his fists and roars, apologize to me right now. Eugene turns back lazily, not even pretending to care. I'm sorry, he says flatly, not a shred of sincerity in his voice. Cyan blinks, momentarily thrown off by the sheer disrespect. Then his face darkens again. That wasn't sincere. Get on your knees and bow properly. Eugene tilts his head, genuinely puzzled. Aren't we the same age? He spreads his hands in mock innocence. Why would I bow to a friend? Cyan nearly explodes. You dare call me a friend, he sputters, launching into a heated rant about how sharing the Lionheart name doesn't make them equals. Cyle, ever the little troublemaker, leans in with a smirk. Brother, the carriage. Remember the carriage. Cyan's eyes flash with sudden realization. Oh, right. He points at Eugene, voice booming. Hey, you. Go clean the carriage you came in. It probably reeks of the farm animals you raised. Eugene doesn't even blink. Still holding his spear, he calmly calls out over his shoulder. Nina, you're my personal servant, right? A timid voice answers from behind a bush. Yes, Lord Eugene. He points toward the entrance. Then go clean the carriage I arrived in. Cyan and Cyle freeze, completely thrown off. Nina hesitates, unsure whose command to follow. Eugene's expression hardens. His eyes narrow, glowing coldly as he turns that terrifying gaze on Cyan. You dare give orders to my servant? Are you saying my word means nothing? Now it's Cyan's turn to falter. He straightens, puffing out his chest in defiance. Are you disrespecting my authority? I am Cyan Lionheart. Eugene's serious look vanishes in an instant. His bright grin returns, cheerful and teasing. Yeah, and I'm Eugene Lionheart. Nice to meet you. Cyle can't help but join in, waving enthusiastically. And I'm Cyle Lionheart. But Cyan's patience is gone. His smile fades into a dark glare, voice dropping to a growl. There's no point being polite. You've ignored my authority. His eyes lock onto a wooden training sword nearby. He snatches it from the rack, gripping it so tightly the ground cracks beneath his feet. A fierce red aura bursts to life around him, pulsing with rage. You've humiliated me, he snarls. I demand a duel. Eugene simply stands there, spear in hand, the corner of his mouth curling into a cool, mocking smile. Oh my, he says lightly. Eugene's tone is flat, utterly unimpressed. Resting the heavy spear across his shoulder, he shakes his head slowly, like an older brother scolding a reckless kid. My friend, he says calmly, you really shouldn't throw the word duel around so lightly. He leans on his spear with a weary sigh. Can you just leave me alone? But that casual dismissal only fuels Cyan's fury. What's wrong? Are you scared? Cyan sneers. That single word, scared, cuts through the air like a spark to dry grass. Eugene's relaxed demeanor vanishes. His eyes darken, and the shadow that crosses his face is enough to make the air itself feel heavier. His patience is gone. Cyan, mistaking the silence for hesitation, grins triumphantly. You're afraid to duel me, aren't you? If so, then bow your head and apologize. Eugene lets out a short, sharp laugh, the kind that holds no humor at all. I'm not scared, he says coolly. But I've got no reason to duel you. And I definitely won't be apologizing. Cyan's rage boils over. You don't want to duel, you don't want to apologize, what do you want to do, run away? He jabs a finger toward Eugene, voice dripping with mockery. Guess your parents never taught you anything about honor. That's the final straw. There's a heavy thud as the sandbag weights drop from Eugene's arms, exploding in a cloud of dust. Cyan flinches, startled by the sudden noise. What is that? Eugene's voice is like frost. You said you wanted a duel. He begins unwrapping the bindings from his arms, the cloth falling away to reveal the faint red marks left behind by relentless training. You've got one. The remaining weights hit the ground with another dull crash, followed by the deep clang of chainmail as Eugene shrugs off the heavy vest he'd been wearing. The earth trembles beneath it. Cyan, Sile, and even Nina can only stare, wide-eyed. The ground is literally cracking from the weight of the discarded gear. Cyan's mind reels. He was wearing that this whole time? He thought it was just for show. Eugene lifts his spear, lighter now, deadly in his grip, and fixes his gaze on Cyan. But Cyan can't retreat. Not now. His pride's on the line, and if he backs down, Sile will never let him live it down. He steadies himself, forcing a deep breath. His voice trembles only slightly as he tears a handkerchief from his pocket and tosses it onto the ground between them. Eugene Lionheart, he declares, I, Cyan Lionheart, challenge you to a duel. The handkerchief flutters to the dirt, marking the line that neither can cross. Eugene crouches low, his grip tightening on his spear. The air around him grows still, his focus absolute. His voice cuts through the silence like a blade. Accepted. Sile gasps, eyes wide. She never imagined it would actually come to this. Sile can't believe what she's just heard. He actually accepted? Before she can even blink, Eugene moves. He launches forward in a blur, faster than anyone can follow. In an instant, the butt of his spear slams straight into Cyan's stomach with a brutal, bone-rattling impact. The sound echoes through the training ground. Cyan's breath is ripped from his lungs as his feet leave the ground. For a split second, he hangs suspended, then crashes back down hard, his wooden sword tumbling away uselessly. Eugene's expression is cold and unreadable. He stands over Cyan, spear in hand, like a judge delivering a sentence. I win, he says simply. Sile rushes to her brother's side, voice trembling with panic. Cyan! Cyan's face twists, turning pale green. He tries to speak, but instead, his body convulses. He vomits right there on the dirt, the result of a strike that shook him to his core. Sile covers her mouth, horrified, her shock quickly giving way to anger. She rounds on Eugene, pointing a shaking finger. How cowardly! That wasn't an honorable duel. Eugene folds his arms, unbothered. Cowardly? How? A duel starts the moment it's accepted. If he dropped his guard, that's on him. Sile grits her teeth, unwilling to admit his right. Fine, she snaps, narrowing her eyes. Then you must have used mana. I didn't, Eugene replies evenly, turning away. Branch family members aren't allowed to use mana before the coming-of-age ritual. Liar, she screams. There's no way you could move like that without it. She replays the moment in her head, the blur of motion, the speed, the force. Even if Cyan hadn't been caught off guard, he never would have stood a chance. Eugene glances back, a faint smirk tugging at his lips. Here. So your eyes aren't just for decoration after all. Sile snaps back instantly, you've got such a foul mouth. Eugene just grins. Yeah, I've heard that one before. Then, his tone shifts, steady, analytical. It's not like your brother was completely helpless. When I hit him, he shifted his weight just in time to soften the blow. For someone without much combat experience, that's impressive. His expression hardens slightly. He's got potential. But right now, he's nowhere near worthy of being called a descendant of the Great Vermouth. That cuts deep. Cyan staggers to his feet, trembling with humiliation and fury, his chin still smeared with bile. You dare say that to me? He growls. He spits to the side, glaring daggers at Eugene. You coward! Eugene places his hands on his hips, flashing a teasing grin. You two really are twins, saying the exact same thing. He starts walking toward the fallen boy, each step calm, confident, deliberate. He leans down. Eugene leans down, his voice sharp and commanding, more teacher than opponent. If you truly carry the Lionheart name, he says coldly, then learn to accept defeat with the same pride you claim to fight for. Cyan can only groan, his body trembling from humiliation. The weight of it crushes him far more than the blow ever could. For a brief moment, Eugene hesitates. Did I go too far? He just flattened a direct heir of the main family. That probably wasn't the smartest move. Before he can think any further, a stern voice cuts through the air. Young master! A man comes sprinting toward them, sharply dressed, his mustache neatly trimmed, his eyes hard as steel. There's no Lionheart crest on his uniform. A hired knight, Eugene notes instantly. But his posture, his aura, the way he moves, this man is dangerous. Cyan spots him and immediately bursts into tears. Hezar! He cries, stumbling forward and burying his face in the man's chest. I lost. I lost to a country bumpkin like him. Through his sobs, he blurts out the whole story, how he was the one who issued the challenge and how he was the one who lost. Hezar's expression darkens. A duel, he repeats, the word weighted with disapproval. He looks between them, the trembling, tear-streaked boy and the calm, steady figure of Eugene standing amid cracked stone and scattered training weights. After a pause, Hezar helps Cyan to his feet and straightens his posture. I am Hezar, he introduces formally. Instructor to young Master Cyan. Eugene gives a polite nod. Eugene Lionheart, from Gilead. Hezar raises a brow at the name. That would be Sergar's branch, yes. Yes, Eugene confirms, standing firm among the evidence of his relentless training. Hezar's gaze sweeps the area, the shattered weights, the gouged earth, the boy still struggling to stand. His tone sharpens. What exactly happened here? Eugene doesn't hesitate. Cyan started a fight with me, and then insulted my father. Cyan lifts his head weakly, still leaning on Hezar. I didn't. Eugene's voice cuts through his protest, calm but cold. He said my father never taught me about honor. Called me a coward. He steps forward slightly, meeting Hezar's eyes directly. He insulted not just me, but my father as well. Tell me, Sir Hezar, isn't that reason enough for a duel? The knight's expression tightens. For a long moment, he says nothing. Then he exhales, covering his mouth thoughtfully before finally nodding. Your reasoning is sound, he admits quietly. Turning to Cyan, his voice hardens again. Young master, that's enough for today. Let's get you treated. As Hezar guides the defeated boy away, he glances back at Eugene with a hint of respect. Young Master Eugene. I hope we meet again. Cyan waves brightly from behind them. See you. Eugene raises a hand lazily. Yeah. Bye. Later that day, the dining hall echoes with the clatter of dishes and the sound of vigorous eating. Eugene sits at the head of the table, tearing through a feast fit for a knight returning from battle. Chicken legs, meat pies, roast vegetables. His appetite is unstoppable. Nina approaches, holding a notepad close to her chest. With a chicken leg still hanging from his mouth, Eugene looks up. Did you find out what I asked for? Nina nods quickly. Yes, young master. 3 more young masters are arriving tomorrow. At noon, Nina finishes softly. And 2 more, Gargus and Dara, will be arriving by Warp Gate in the evening. Eugene tears into another bite of chicken, chewing thoughtfully. They're all coming sooner than expected. That could only mean one thing, the blood succession ritual was drawing near. After the meal, he steps out onto the grand balcony, the cool wind brushing against him as he gazes across the sprawling Lionheart estate. For a long moment, he says nothing. Only one name echoes in his mind. Vermouth. He stands there, a single figure dwarfed by the immense legacy surrounding him, a descendant, a rival, and in a twisted way, an inheritor. Tilting his head toward the sky, a fierce spark lights in his eyes. He clenches his fist. "I'll surpass all of your descendants," he vows silently. "And I hope you're not too upset about it, old man." A grin, sharp and defiant, spreads across his face. He never asked to be reborn into this family. This reincarnation was fate's little joke. But now? Now it was his second chance. A chance to prove who the true warrior really was. Elsewhere, in a sunlit but suffocatingly lavish room, tension hangs thick in the air. Cyan and Sile stand stiffly before an elegant woman whose very presence commands the space. Beside them, Instructor Hezar bows low, his expression grim. Cyan avoids her eyes, shoulders trembling. With a sharp tap of her fan, the woman breaks the silence. Her voice is smooth, almost sweet, but her words are laced with frost. "So," she begins, "my son, Cyan, challenged a boy from a branch family and lost. This is Anisilla, the patriarch's second wife, and the twins' mother." Hezar bows even lower. "Yes, madam. That is correct." A slow, predatory smile spreads across her face, elegant, cruel, and utterly cold. "Sai," she says softly, "come here." He flinches but obeys, stepping forward with his head bowed. Without warning, crack. Her fan strikes him hard across the chest. The sound echoes through the room as the fan connects against the golden lion crest on his uniform. She presses the edge of the fan into his chest, her smile unwavering. "Not only that," she continues, voice razor sharp, "you lost in a single strike." "Mother, it hurts." Cyan gasps. Her eyes narrow. "Stay still." The command is icy, leaving no room for disobedience. Then she turns her attention toward Hezar. "Instructor Hezar," she says, her tone deceptively calm. "Are you certain that boy has never trained with mana?" Hezar bows respectfully. "Yes, Lady Anisilla." The son of Sergar, Eugene, showed no trace of mana in his body. Anisilla hums, eyes calculating as she shifts her gaze to her daughter. "Sile," she says evenly, "tell me exactly how your brother lost." Sile straightens, swallowing nervously before replying. "At the very start of the duel, Eugene moved first. He thrust his spear so quickly that brother couldn't react in time. He tried to retreat, but Eugene's strike landed before he could even move." Anisilla's eyes darken. The faint smile vanishes. "So that's what happened." Her fan closes with a soft snap. The duel ended with a single, pitiful strike. Cyan lowers his head even further, unable to face her gaze, the sting of shame far worse than any blow Eugene had dealt. Cyan looks up at her, voice small. "Mother!" She slaps him across the face, the sound rings through the ornate room. Her voice cuts sharply. "How dare you challenge someone to a duel and lose in front of such lowly commoners? And to a boy who's never even trained with mana." Her fury is aimed at pride. She continues without pause. "Our father is returning soon. What am I supposed to tell him? Do you know how much that Hagtheronis will laugh at me?" Cyan collapses, sobbing and apologizing over and over. "I'm sorry, mother. I'm so sorry." Anisilla ignores his tears and turns to the instructor. Her tone becomes a command. "Hezar." Hezar replies quietly, "Yes, my lady." She fixes him with a hard order. "Right now, I want to kill you with my own hands. However, you are a knight my husband favors. Train Cyan until he will never shame me like this again." "Yes, my lady," Hezar answers, bowing deeply. Anisilla waves them away. "Take him and leave my sight." Hezar lays a guiding hand on Cyan's shoulder and leads the weeping boy out as Anisilla watches, still unreadable. The heavy doors close behind them, leaving Anisilla alone with Sile. She snaps her fan shut with a sharp crack, breathes once, and then calls, "Sile." "Yes, mother," Sile answers. Anisilla's tone shifts to something cool and calculating. "That boy, Eugene, was it? Stay close to him." Sile blinks in confusion. "But why?" Anisilla explains plainly. A boy that's strong without mana training is interesting. She considers the options and dismisses the simplest one. Killing him would raise suspicion and attract the attention of the guardians of the familial code, a line she will not cross. Keep your friends close and your potential enemies closer. Sile brightens. All right, mother. I want to learn more about him anyway. I'll make friends with Eugene. Anicilla allows a small, satisfied smile. Her plan is set in motion. The next day, 3 more children from the collateral lines arrive. Deacon, age 11, Hansen, 14, and just 10. Each bears the signature white hair of the Lionheart clan, but each moves and speaks in a different way. While they arrive, Eugene is already on the training grounds, pushing himself through a punishing run. Sweat pours from his brow as he drives himself onward. Sweat drips down Eugene's brow as he runs, every stride steady and deliberate. Nina rushes after him, breathless. Young master, wait. He glances over, still running. What is it? They're here, she pants. He raises an eyebrow. The last of the branch kids. Yes, but, she stammers, eyes wide with something close to panic. The head of the family is here too. That stops him cold. Eugene wipes his face with the back of his arm. The patriarch himself? The head of the Lionhearts. He immediately turns and starts for the main house. Wait! Nina cries. At least change your clothes first. He waves her off without slowing. If I do that, I'll be the only one late. Better to be sweaty than disrespectful. He grabs a towel from a nearby rack, gives his face a quick wipe, and heads straight for the entrance. The entire household is assembled. Servants, knights, instructors, all lined up in perfect formation. The air is thick with anticipation. Children from both the main and branch families stand at attention, silent and tense. Eugene quietly slips into place among the branch family heirs, his sharp gaze sweeping across the crowd. His eyes land on the main family group. Standing proudly in front is their mother, Anicilla, the ever-calculating second wife. Beside her, as poised and distant as ice, stands Theonis, the patriarch's first wife, Anicilla's lifelong rival. And next to Theonis, dressed in formal black, stands a boy with a calm, heavy gaze, Iode Lionheart, the eldest son and official heir. A low rumble echoes across the courtyard. 2 carriages appear at the far end of the grand driveway, flanked by 2 riders on horseback. The lead rider is impossible to mistake. His long hair, streaked with gold and grey, glints in the sunlight. His presence alone demands silence. Gilead Lionheart, the patriarch. His golden eyes, sharp and piercing, sweep over everyone in a single, commanding glance. The weight of his authority settles over the courtyard like a storm. Behind him rides another man, his younger brother, Jayan. As Gilead dismounts, all bow their heads. Even the wind seems to quiet. Iode, the eldest son, lowers his gaze nervously. His father approaches, a faint, unreadable smile tugging at his lips. Iode, Gilead says, placing a hand on his head. You've grown. His tone shifts slightly. Have your skills grown as well? Iode swallows hard. Yes, father. I've been training every day to meet your expectations. Gilead studies him for a moment, silent, then moves on without comment. He turns to Anicilla and her children. Cyan. Sile. I almost didn't recognize you. Children grow up quickly. Sile bows politely, her tone light and cheerful. We missed you, father. Cyan stays quiet, stiff and pale, unable to meet his father's gaze. Then Gilead's eyes shift again, scanning the line until they stop on another man. Guilford, he calls. The man steps forward, holding a small, swaddled infant in his arms. I heard you had a son, Gilead says, his expression softening for the first time. I'm sorry I couldn't attend the celebration. Guilford bows deeply. Please, brother, think nothing of it. Guilford quickly shakes his head, bowing low. Please, brother, don't trouble yourself with such things. Gilead simply nods, his expression unreadable. Then, turning his gaze toward the final group, the children of the collateral lines, he strides over, his presence enough to silence even the faintest whisper. His sharp eyes sweep over each of them, measuring, weighing. Then, with a calm authority that leaves no room for hesitation, he says, "Let's all share a meal." A faint, knowing smile tugs at his lips. "We'll discuss the bloodline continuation properly, under a brighter light." Moments later, the grand dining hall glows beneath a magnificent crystal chandelier. The future of the Lionheart clan has gathered around a long, polished table, 9 children in total, each chosen to take part in the bloodline continuation ritual. The air is thick with tension. No one dares to speak. The clink of silverware and the faint rustle of fabric are the only sounds in the room. At the head of the table sits the patriarch, Gilead Lionheart, a man whose presence alone could fill the entire hall. To his right are his children from the direct line, the composed and perceptive Sile, the Solomere Iode, and, beside them, an unfamiliar figure, a tall man with long blonde hair, smiling easily as if the tension in the air doesn't touch him. Across from them sit the children of the branch families, Eugene among them, silent but watchful, studying everyone with calm precision. His gaze lands on 2 of the newcomers, a large, muscular boy built like a fortress, and a dark-skinned girl with sharp, piercing eyes. Gargus and Desra. He recognizes them immediately, the 2 who arrived earlier through the warp gates alongside the patriarch. The most promising heirs from the strongest branch families. But what catches his attention more is the blonde man seated near the main family, the stranger. Who is he? Eugene wonders. This dinner is supposed to be family only. Across the table, Sile seems to share his curiosity. She glances at the stranger, then leans toward her father. "Father," she asks softly, "who is our guest?" Gilead hums in thought, his gaze sliding to the man beside him. "I was going to introduce him later," he begins. But the blonde man laughs lightly, waving a hand. "It's quite all right." He leans forward, his smile bright and disarming. Eugene raises his teacup, watching carefully as the stranger continues. "Hello, children," the man says warmly. "My name is Laverian, from the Red Tower." The name hits the room like a thunderclap. "Laverian?" Gargus blurts out, eyes wide. Another boy nearly chokes on his drink, coughing violently. "The Tower Master of the Red Tower?" Even Eugene's composure falters. He sputters, choking on his tea before managing to croak, "I'm fine," waving off Laverian's concerned glance. But inside, his mind is spinning. The Red Tower Master? That means this man is connected, not distantly, but directly, to his past. A disciple of Sienna's line. No, he realizes. A disciple of her disciple. Memories stir. 300 years ago, Sienna became the youngest Tower Master in history, a genius who reshaped the very foundations of magic. Her teachings endured for centuries, and even now, the masters of the Red and Green Towers honor her name, Sienna the Wise. Eugene lowers his cup, his golden eyes flicking toward the patriarch at the head of the table. To meet someone linked to his past life, here, of all places, leaves a strange, familiar feeling simmering in his chest. A sharp voice slices through the silence. "You're Eugene, right? Veronis told me about you." Gilead's gaze hardens, his tone heavy with authority. "My son insulted both you and your father." Across the table, Sion stiffens, his hands trembling under his father's piercing eyes. "Yes," Eugene answers calmly, then adds, "but I hold no grudge." Gilead leans back, the corner of his mouth curling slightly. "That's because you won the duel." Eugene's reply comes firm and unwavering. "Even if I'd lost, it wouldn't change anything. If I can't defend my honor, then I deserve the shame that follows." For a moment, Gilead studies him quietly. Then, with a faint glimmer of approval, he says, "You're better than my son." The words strike the room like thunder. He turns to Sion and takes his hand. "Sion." "Yes, father." "I'm not ashamed of your defeat," Gilead says, voice steady but cutting. "I'm ashamed that you care more about my reaction than about your own lack of honor." Sion lowers his head, unable to answer. "The duel began because of your insult," Gilead continues, each word sharp and deliberate. "Even after losing, you didn't apologize." I, Sion falters. "You bear the name Lionheart," Gilead reminds him, his voice echoing through the hall. The great Vermouth is your ancestor. If you truly carry his blood, then learn to respect not only yourself, but your opponent as well. Cyan looks across the table, eyes meeting Eugene's. Shame burns in his chest. Finally, he forces out the words. I apologize. Eugene doesn't respond aloud. He's only saying that because he has to, he thinks, letting out a silent scoff. Gilead turns his attention back to Eugene. You said your father's name is Guard. I admit, I don't know him. That's not surprising, Eugene replies smoothly. Even I think our family lives out in the middle of nowhere. Gilead lets out a quiet hum, as if visualizing the vast Lionheart family tree. Did your father teach you how to fight? He taught me the basics, Eugene says simply. The rest, I learned myself. The room falls silent. Diera blinks in disbelief. He trained himself, she whispers. Goggis looks just as stunned. And he still beats Cyan. A slow grin spreads across Gilead's face. This ceremony might be far more entertaining than I expected. Just then, the doors open. Maids enter, pushing carts overflowing with dishes fit for a royal banquet, lobsters, roasted meats, steaming soups, golden pastries. Gilead gestures toward the feast. Please, eat. You must be hungry. Later that night, under the glow of the full moon, the mansion falls silent once more. The feast is over. The plates are gone, but the tension lingers. The children sit once more around the grand table, the air thick with anticipation. Gilead dabs his mouth with a napkin and speaks, his voice steady and commanding. As I said earlier, I've gathered you here to explain the rules of this year's bloodline continuation ceremony. Every eye turns to him. Eugene and the other branch family children listen closely. This moment could shape their entire futures. Before Gilead can continue, Sile raises his hand. I know it's not my place to say this, he begins carefully, but the traditional ceremony has always been unfair. Gad nods in agreement, his tone calm but firm. The old rules were designed to favor the main line. The branch families never really stood a chance. Gilead leans back, folding his hands. 3 of my own children will take part this year, he says, glancing toward Iode. But this time, I want to test the potential of all who carry the Lionheart name. His voice rings through the hall, filled with conviction. This ceremony is not about bloodlines. It's about finding the one who inherits the true spirit of the Great Vermouth. Whether direct or collateral, it makes no difference. Eugene lowers his gaze, a faint smile tugging at his lips. Vermouth, your descendant is far kinder than you ever were, he thinks quietly. That, Gilead continues, is why we've brought in an outside expert. A burst of energy fills the air as Liberian stands up, grinning from ear to ear. And that's where I come in, he declares, snapping his fingers with flair. A flash of blue light floods the room. Before them, a glowing projection appears, a vast, intricate maze suspended in the air. This, Liberian explains proudly, is a magical labyrinth of my own design. Each of you will enter from a different point. Your goal is simple, reach the center and defeat the elite monster waiting there. With another gesture, the image shifts to reveal a massive, armored beast, its eyes burning with fire. Of course, Liberian adds with a mischievous grin, you'll have to survive plenty of traps and battles along the way. He holds up a sphere of crackling blue energy. But don't worry. Everything inside is an illusion, a creation of my magic. Nothing that happens there will be real. His eyes sparkle. Think of it as a grand adventure. Dangerous, but fun. Eugene studies the projection, his thoughts sharp and focused. High-level summoning and illusion magic combined, he muses. You'd need that much skill to become a tower master. Liberian goes on, his tone brisk. The rule is simple. If any one of you defeats the boss, the ceremony ends. Your performances will be graded individually. One of the boys, Hansen, raises a shaky hand. What happens if we can't clear the maze? Liberian chuckles. Well, if you're scared, you can always wait by the entrance. But, you won't score very high doing that. Eugene leans forward slightly, cutting to the heart of it. If we do defeat the boss, what's the reward? The room goes quiet. Gilead closes his eyes for a moment, then opens them, his gaze blazing like a storm. Gilead's voice fills the hall like thunder. The victor, he declares, will be granted one treasure from the Lionheart family's legendary vault. For the first time, Eugene's composure breaks. His eyes widen, sparkling with genuine excitement. Now that's worth fighting for. Later that night, the hallways of the mansion glow dimly under flickering candlelight. Eugene walks alone, deep in thought, the quiet hum of anticipation running through him. A confident grin spreads across his face. I'll win this ceremony. That much is certain. The real question is what I'll take from the treasury. His steps echo down the corridor, steady, sure, and filled with determination. He won't lose. Not to anyone. Ahead, two figures appear, Goggis and Diera, waiting as if they'd been expecting him. The atmosphere shifts immediately, tension sparking between them like flint and steel. The two strongest among the branch family heirs. Both rivals. Both threats. When you take down the main family's golden boy, it doesn't take long for others to come testing your strength. Goggis, towering and broad-shouldered, breaks the silence first. So the rumors are true? You really beat Cyan Lionheart in a duel. Eugene doesn't flinch. Doesn't even blink. He simply looks at them, calm, unbothered, completely in control. Yeah. That's all he says. One word. Sharp as a blade. He turns his back and starts walking, his tone cool and dismissive. If you're done asking questions, I'm leaving. His footsteps fade down the hall, leaving the two standing there in silence. Goggis blinks, caught off guard. Hey, is all he manages to mutter, watching Eugene disappear down the red-carpeted corridor. Beside him, Diera crosses her arms, her eyes narrowing slightly. She's not just watching, she's studying him. That night, under the full moon, the main estate lies still. The silver light spills across the empty courtyard where Eugene trains alone. A wooden sword flashes through the air, sharp, clean, precise. Each swing cuts the silence with a whistle, every motion filled with explosive power and control that seems far too refined for a 13-year-old. His stance is steady, his strikes deliberate. This isn't play. This is discipline, the relentless grind of a warrior who refuses to be ordinary. He pivots sharply, driving his sword through a final sweeping arc. The air swirls, dust rising in a spiral around him. He stops. His instincts scream. Someone's there. Eugene turns slightly, his gaze cutting toward the archway. Two figures stand in the shadows, Goggis and Diera, silently watching him. Goggis looms with his arms folded. Diera stands poised, two practice spears in hand. They're not here by accident. Eugene's expression hardens. Seriously? What do they want now? He was hoping for peace, but the echo of their approaching footsteps tells him otherwise. They start walking toward him, slow and deliberate, their silhouettes framed by the moonlight. Whatever's coming next won't be a casual chat. The night isn't over. Goggis steps forward until he's standing right in front of Eugene, determination blazing in his eyes. Eugene meets his stare, unimpressed. What does this muscle-brained guy want now? Then, rip. With a loud tearing sound, Goggis grabs his shirt and rips it apart like it's paper. The fine fabric shreds in his hands as he flexes, muscles bulging under the moonlight like they're trying to break free. Steam practically rises off him. He strikes a heroic pose, every vein popping with effort. Then, without warning, he turns around and flexes his back, muscles rippling like waves under his skin. Eugene just stands there, staring blankly. In his head, one dry thought crosses his mind. Is he an idiot? Goggis turns back, puffing out his chest with pride. You can touch it, he says confidently. Eugene doesn't even blink. No thanks. But Goggis isn't done. He leans forward, grinning wide. My family has a secret muscle growth medicine, he declares, like his unveiling an ancient treasure. It's a special elixir that accelerates muscle development without building mana, and it has absolutely no side effects. Eugene stares at him flatly. So, you came here to sell me fake miracle drugs? Inside, he's already rolling his eyes. Right. And next you'll tell me it also cures baldness. Before Goggis can answer, Diera finally speaks up from the side, her tone calm and matter-of-fact. Actually, there is one side effect. Both boys turn to her. Anyone who drinks it, she says evenly, grows a beard. Man or woman? Goggis freezes mid-flex. Eugene almost laughs, but Diera's attention has already shifted toward him. I heard you used a spear against Cyan, she says. So why are you using a sword now? Behind her, Goggis is still posing uselessly, trying to recover his pride. Eugene answers without hesitation. I use both. She raises an eyebrow. So you're saying you can handle any weapon? Without warning, Diera tosses one of her practice spears toward him. It spins through the moonlit air, a perfect, testing throw. Whack! Eugene catches it effortlessly, his grip firm, stance solid. His expression sharpens instantly, all humor gone. Diera's lips curl into a fierce, eager smile. The spear's my specialty, she says, lowering into a ready stance. Fight me. Eugene weighs his options for half a second. Sparring sounds better than listening to another minute of his muscle potion pitch, he decides. Besides, he's curious. He wants to see just how strong the top branch heirs really are. A confident grin spreads across his face. All right, he says. They take their positions across the training yard, spears in hand. The night air grows still. The tension between them tightens, sharp, electric, real. This isn't a friendly spar. This is a test. The duel of strength begins. Eugene glances to the side and freezes. Goggis is standing right between them, still shirtless, still radiating pure muscle-headed confidence. What do you think you're doing? Eugene asks flatly. Goggis straightens his posture, raising one arm dramatically. I am the judge, he declares with full seriousness, as if the moonlit courtyard were an arena of legends. Eugene stares at him, unimpressed. Of course he is, he thinks dryly. The guy's single-mindedness reminds him far too much of someone from his past life, his old comrade, Molan. Don't tell me this idiot's a descendant of his. Goggis goes on, completely oblivious to the skepticism in the air. The duel will begin only when I say start. It must be fair. Diera nods, lowering into her stance, her expression sharp with focus. Eugene sighs. Just hurry up already. Diera narrows her eyes. He can use a sword and a spear? Don't make me laugh. Her grip tightens until her knuckles turn white. I'll show him that spearmanship isn't something you can half learn. The courtyard goes silent. Then Goggis roars, start. Diera moves like lightning. She lunges forward, spear scraping the stone floor and sparking with every step. Her attack is fast, precise, powerful. But Eugene's body moves before his mind even needs to. He pivots cleanly, sidestepping the strike by a hair's breadth. The spear slams into the ground with a thunderous crack, leaving a shallow gouge in the courtyard tiles. Diera grits her teeth, frustration flashing across her face. She recovers instantly, spinning her weapon back into position. But Eugene is already waiting, calm and composed, his stance flawless. A faint energy hums around him, his presence shifting. His eyes glow faintly in the moonlight, focused, analytical. He studies her, her footing, her form, her breathing rhythm. Every detail is dissected with surgical precision. No openings, he thinks. Her basics are solid. Not bad. He lowers his spear slightly, voice steady. What are you waiting for? Then, with a cool challenge that cuts through the tension. Come at me. The quiet taunt hits harder than any shout. Diera's pride flares like fire. She lets out a sharp breath, part snarl, part battle cry, and charges again. Her spear flashes through the air, fast and furious. Crack! The two weapons collide. The impact sends a ripple of force across the courtyard, scattering dust into the air. The sound of wood on wood echoes through the night. Under the moonlight, two silhouettes clash, one fierce and relentless, the other calm and immovable. Diera pushes forward, muscles straining, her whole body committed to overpowering him. But Eugene's form doesn't falter. His movements are efficient, deliberate, every motion a master's counter. He redirects her strike smoothly, his spear shimmering faintly as it channels his precision and control. Diera gasps, her eyes widening in disbelief. This isn't normal. He's not just blocking. He's dominating the rhythm of the fight. Every exchange only widens the gap between them, strength against skill, force against finesse. The clash intensifies. A flurry of blows follows, echoing through the courtyard like drumbeats of war. The duel has truly begun. Sparks burst through the night air as their wooden spears crash together again and again, each strike ringing like thunder in the courtyard. The pace is blistering, too fast for the untrained eye to follow. Eugene stays perfectly calm. Every parry, every counter, executed with effortless precision. She's good, he admits inwardly. Especially for her age. And without using mana? Impressive. But then, a small, confident smirk creeps across his face. Still, she's nowhere near my level. With a sharp twist, Eugene knocks her weapon aside. The impact throws Diera off balance for just a moment, but it's enough. He lowers his spear, casual and composed. Can't even land a hit, he asks, almost teasing. Her face burns red. Shut it, she snaps, frustration boiling over. How? She thinks furiously. He's blocking everything without even moving. Her jaw tightens. Fine. Keep smirking. That arrogance will be your undoing. With a fierce yell, she charges one last time, putting everything she has into a single, desperate thrust. Eugene's eyes narrow. Their spears collide in a storm of motion, rapid-fire strikes and parries that fill the air with the sound of cracking wood. She's fighting with all her strength. He's barely breaking a sweat. Her final strike whistles through the air, but hits nothing. Eugene sidesteps again, smooth as water, her attack slamming into the stone courtyard instead. Before she can recover, he moves, fast, fluid, and precise. In an instant, he's at her side. Her balance falters, her stance wide open. Desperate, Diera swings low, aiming for his legs. I bet you can't block this, she shouts. Her spear sweeps in a perfect arc, cutting low and fast. Thud. Eugene's foot slams down, pinning her spear to the ground. The force reverberates through the courtyard. The shaft trembles under his weight, trapped, immovable. Her eyes go wide. He stopped it, without even using his weapon? Before she can pull back, he presses forward, his spear flashing upward, the wooden tip stopping just an inch from her throat. Silence falls. The duel is over. Eugene stands firm, steady, unshaken. Diera freezes in disbelief, breath caught in her chest. From the sidelines, Goggis, still shirtless, still stunned, finally speaks, his voice echoing with awe. Eugene Lionheart is the winner. The words hang in the air like a final verdict. Eugene lowers his weapon and turns away, unfazed. Victory means little to him, it was inevitable. But for Goggis, the match sparks something else entirely. His eyes blaze with newfound determination. Eugene, we need to combine our strengths, he declares passionately. Together, we could. He never gets to finish. Cut to later that night, Eugene's back in his room, finally trying to sleep. The lights are dim, the mansion quiet. Then, Eugene. Goggis's massive silhouette looms over his bed like a ghost that refuses to leave. A vein twitches on Eugene's forehead. He glares up, dead tired and completely done with the night. You woke me up just to tell me that? You woke me up just to tell me that? Eugene's voice is flat, his patience hanging by a thread. But Goggis doesn't back down. Arms crossed, eyes serious, he stands his ground like a boulder refusing to move. I want to hear your answer, he says firmly. It's clear, he's not leaving without one. Eugene sighs, rubbing his forehead before sitting up. Let me get this straight, he says, trying to reason with the walking mountain in front of him. We're all entering the labyrinth from different locations. So how exactly are we supposed to team up? But Goggis is already ready for that. Even if we start apart, the goal's the same, the boss at the center, he says, his tone surprisingly strategic. And I'm sure the main family twins will be working together. Eugene studies him for a moment. So you're saying, we meet at the center and fight the boss together? Goggies nods, dead serious. Exactly. Eugene lets out a quiet scoff, that familiar hint of arrogance flickering in his eyes, the ghost of Hamel's pride bleeding through. I'm pretty sure I can handle it alone, he says, voice sharp with confidence. Then adds, almost lazily. You're getting ahead of yourself. From the doorway, a quiet voice cuts in. Diera. She's been there the whole time, leaning against the frame, listening. Swallowing her pride, she finally speaks. But, you're strong, she admits reluctantly. With you, we might actually have a chance. Eugene tilts his head, curiosity flickering. A chance? This isn't just about treasure for them. There's something deeper here. Why do you want to win so badly? He asks, leaning back slightly. Diera steps forward, her voice firm with conviction. Because in all the years of the bloodline continuation ceremony, no collateral family has ever won, she says. Her words hang in the air, heavy with defiance. But this time, we can change that. The three of us, me, Goggies, and the kid who beat Sign, we can be the first. She looks at him, eyes blazing with determination. Goggies nods beside her, every muscle in his body tense with shared purpose. Then they ask the question they think will push him over the edge. Don't you want to beat the direct line? For a moment, silence. Eugene just stares at them, expression cold and unreadable. They think they understand his drive, but they don't. He isn't here for family pride. He isn't here to settle petty rivalries. His ambitions reach far beyond that. He's not aiming to beat the direct line. He's aiming to surpass a legend. Elsewhere in the mansion, the night air is still. Under the pale moonlight, Anisilla stands by a grand window, her silhouette framed in silver. Her gaze drifts across the gardens, though her thoughts are far away. Her mind turns to Liberian, the Red Tower Master. His arrival isn't a coincidence. She's certain of it. He's here for Iode. Her lips press into a thin line. If the Tower Master takes Iode as his disciple, the boy will leave to study magic, stepping away from the sword and, with it, his right to inherit the patriarch's seat. For most mothers, it might be a tragedy. For her, it's an opportunity. With Iode gone, her own children, Cyan and Sile, would have a clear path to power. But there's one problem. The ceremony. And Cyan's humiliating defeat. A fresh sting burns in her chest. She's fought for everything her children have, every scrap of recognition, every shred of status, all earned through struggle as the second wife of the Lionheart Patriarch. And now, her son was bested by a boy from a branch family. A stain that threatens to undo everything she's built. Her eyes narrow, the reflection of the moon glinting cold in her gaze. This humiliation, she will not allow it to last. Anisilla's fingers tighten around her ornate fan, the delicate wood creaking beneath the pressure of her fury. The humiliation burns, her son's loss, her years of careful positioning, all threatened by a single boy from the branches. But then, something clicks. A different thought slithers into her mind, cruel, cold, and brilliant. What if that boy, Eugene, sweeps through the labyrinth? What if his strength is so overwhelming that he crushes everyone, the branch families, the direct heirs, all of them? If that happens, Cyan's defeat won't stand out. It'll vanish in the wreckage, one failure buried under the collapse of the entire main line's pride. And that, she can use. If she plays it right, Eugene's victory could cleanse her son's disgrace. She could twist the story, not as Cyan's failure, but as the fall of all her rivals together. Her anger fades into a quiet, sinister smile. The plan is simple. Let the monster run free, and when the dust settles, she'll make the world see exactly what she wants them to see. 3 days later. The time for scheming is over. The bloodline continuation ceremony begins. The children gather in a wide forest clearing, morning mist curling around their feet. Before them, a swirling blue vortex hums with magic, the gateway to the labyrinth. Liberian stands before it, his trademark grin bright as ever. A sphere of pure light spins between his hands, pulsing like a living star. Everyone ready, he calls out cheerfully. With a flick of his wrist, the sphere bursts, sending shimmering tendrils of light toward each participant. Cyan and Sile close their eyes, focusing as the energy surrounds them. Eugene, Goggies, And Diera feel it too, raw, vibrant, alive. Liberian's voice rings clear across the clearing. Your first task, create your weapons. He gestures to the streams of light swirling around them. Use your imagination. Shape the magic however you wish. Some of the younger participants struggle immediately, the light flickering as their focus breaks. But others find their rhythm. Sile, calm and confident, raises her hand. The magic bends to her will, elegant, controlled. It solidifies into a gleaming rapier, thin and graceful. Her eyes widen in wonder. Wow, she breathes, giving it a few test swings. The blade hums, leaving trails of light in its wake. Liberian chuckles approvingly. Nicely done. A beautiful choice. Sile tilts her head curiously. What happens if it breaks? He laughs, waving a hand. It won't. The weapons and the labyrinth are made from the same magic. Inside, it's indestructible. That gets a few gasps of relief, and a few raised eyebrows. Then Sile asks again, her curiosity boundless. Could I make an animal instead? Liberian shakes his head, though the twinkle never leaves his eyes. You can create a golem, yes, a non-living construct. But true life? That's off limits. A boy in the back frowns. Why not? Why can't we make life? The Tower Master's smile softens, turning almost teacher-like. Because creating life is the one art that belongs only to life itself, he explains. It's a sacred boundary, one no magic should cross. The boy nods slowly. He gets it. Some powers aren't meant to be imitated. Then comes Goggies. With a loud roar, he thrusts his hands forward, the light exploding around him. The glow twists, solidifies, and becomes a gigantic greatsword, nearly as tall as he is. He grins wide, flexing proudly. Just like my favorite sword back home. Without missing a beat, Diera deadpans, did anyone ask? Goggies just laughs. Her turn. She raises her hand, her magic flowing smoothly, forming into a long, sleek spear. The shape reflects her, precise, efficient, deadly. Sign, standing off to the side, focuses hard. His light swirls, coalescing into a classic longsword, elegant and perfectly balanced. A confident smirk returns to his face. This is his moment to reclaim everything he lost. And just beside him, the eldest son steps forward. The air shifts. The light in his hands burns brighter than the others, controlled yet powerful. Iode Lionheart materializes his weapon. Iode's weapon materializes, a simple, delicate blade. Elegant, yes, but modest, almost like an afterthought. Around him, the other children finish forming their weapons, mostly basic swords. Their grips are unsteady, movements stiff and uncertain. They look more like students on their first day than heirs of a great warrior family. And then, there's Eugene. While the others struggle to impress, he simply shapes his magic with calm precision. The light molds effortlessly into a short sword and a sturdy round shield. No flair, no spectacle, just perfect practicality. A soldier's choice. Sile approaches him, curiosity flickering in her eyes. Her brother Cyan follows a few steps behind, his gaze sharp and suspicious. What'll you do if we meet inside the labyrinth? She asks, voice light but with an unmistakable edge of challenge. She leans in a little, her smile teasing. Will you fight me? Eugene doesn't answer her question. Instead, he turns to Liberian. Are we allowed to fight? The Tower Master gives a knowing grin. Of course. Competition is what this ceremony's all about. But Gilead's earlier words echo faintly in Eugene's mind. You may be rivals, but you are still family. Remember that cooperation can be just as important as strength. Family. The word sits strangely in his head. Hamel, the man behind Eugene, had never known that kind of bond. He'd fought alongside comrades, not kin. Family was something distant, unfamiliar, and honestly, uncomfortable. Sile notices the faint flicker of thought behind his expression. Her lips curl into a sly, knowing smile, one that unsettles him more than any monster could. He flinches, looking away. What's with this kid? She's way too weird. A grown man in a 13-year-old body, and somehow this girl still throws him off balance. Before the awkward silence can stretch further, Liberian claps his hands sharply. All right, everyone. Let's move on. Glowing necklaces shimmer into existence above his palms. Each of you, take one. The children gather around as he hands them out. The Tower Master's tone turns uncharacteristically serious. These pendants are linked directly to your consciousness. If your mind or body is pushed past its limit inside the labyrinth, they'll activate automatically. His expression hardens. If that happens, I'll treat it as a life-threatening emergency and pull you out immediately. Eugene immediately understands, a safeguard. A way to keep this test from turning into a massacre. Liberian continues, his usual grin returning. There's also a manual escape. If you can't continue, tap the gem and say, "Help me." And you'll be pulled out instantly. Think of it as a way to quit with your body still intact. Some of the children exchange nervous looks. Then, with a sweeping gesture toward the massive blue portal swirling before them, Liberian announces, "Now then, step forward. The labyrinth awaits." He pauses, his grin widening with a hint of mischief. Oh, and one more thing. While you'll all enter through the same gate, once you're inside, you'll each walk your own path. The shimmering light intensifies, humming with power. Weapons in hand, the young Lionhearts step forward one by one. Determination and fear mingle in their eyes. Sile turns back to Eugene, smiling brightly. "Hang in there," she calls out. Eugene nods once, curt and composed. "Yeah. You too." And then he steps through. The blue light engulfs him completely. A moment later, his boot strikes solid stone with a low thud. The light fades. He looks up, and finds himself standing alone in a cold, dark corridor of rough-hewn stone. The air is heavy and still, carrying the faint scent of damp earth. The labyrinth has claimed its first challenger. The trial begins. A sharp grin cuts across Eugene's face, the kind that promises chaos. To him, this is nothing new. He's trudged through more dungeons than he can count in his past life. Labyrinths, traps, monsters, he's seen it all. I've done this 1,000 times before, he thinks, scanning the dim corridor above. The ceiling's completely sealed, no shortcuts, no escape routes. Just how he likes it. He moves instinctively, his body reacting before his mind even catches up. The stance, the grip, the rhythm, all carved deep into his bones after countless battles. With a quick tap of his sword against the wall, he confirms it's solid stone. No cracks. No tricks. The only way is forward. The corridor's tight, too narrow for a great sword or a spear. Perfect. That's why he chose the sword and shield combo. A timeless setup for any situation. His grin deepens as his golden eyes glint with confidence. This labyrinth wasn't built to kill. It's a beginner's maze, a playground meant for novices. To someone like Eugene, once known as Hamel the Fool, its traps and monsters might as well be child's puzzles. "Let's get this over with," he mutters, stepping boldly into the shadows. For a 13-year-old, a dungeon filled with monsters should be terrifying. But Eugene? He's more predator than prey. Still, not everyone shares his confidence. Elsewhere, chaos erupts. A swarm of slimes floods the tunnel, their gelatinous bodies hissing and bubbling as they close in on a terrified boy. His sword swings wildly, each strike more desperate than the last. Panic takes over, he trips, crashes to the ground, and the slimes pounce. Pinned and trembling, he fumbles for the safety charm hanging around his neck, screaming for help. In a blinding flash of blue light, Liberian appears. The mage moves swiftly, grabbing the boy and whisking him away before the slimes can finish him. A burst of magic fills the air, and just like that, they are gone. Only a few sizzling puddles and a fallen sword remain. Another one down. An hour has barely passed since the bloodline continuation ceremony began, and already 3 children have failed. Outside the dungeon, those who dropped out stand silently, heads lowered in defeat. In the grand viewing chamber, the Patriarch, Gilod, and Tower Master Liberian watch over them. Gilod's expression is cold and unreadable, his voice firm as he says only, "Go and rest." There's nothing more to add. The children bow, eyes brimming with regret, before quietly leaving the hall. The trial presses on. Galad and Liberian return to their seats, eyes fixed on the floating orbs before them, each one showing a different participant still fighting in the labyrinth. Galad strokes his chin thoughtfully, analyzing every move, every strike. The scene shifts again, this time to Gargus. He's a mountain of muscle, already on the ground, great sword in hand. The air around him hums with tension. With a roar, he charges straight into a pack of goblins. No tricks. No hesitation. Just raw power and grit. Cutting through everything in her path. Gargus moves like a storm-given form, pure muscle and momentum. His great sword arcs through the air, colliding with a goblin's weapon and splintering it like glass. The impact echoes down the corridor. Another goblin steps up, managing to block the strike, but the sheer force sends cracks spiderwebbing through the stone wall behind it. With a thunderous roar, Gargus surges forward. Every swing shakes the floor, every strike leaving a trail of destruction in its wake. The goblins barely have time to scream before they are sent flying, bursting into shards of golden light. When the dust settles, only silence remains, and a path cleared by brute strength alone. He doesn't stop. The boy keeps moving, crushing magical beasts one after another, turning obstacles into glittering fragments. Watching from above, Liberian raises an eyebrow. "He's reckless," he murmurs, "but his power is remarkable." He faces everything head-on and still manages to push through. The view shifts. This time, it's Desire. A spear in hand. Calm, steady, deliberate. She glides through the labyrinth's dark passageways with the grace of a seasoned fighter. Ahead of her, a swarm of slimes. But unlike Gargus, she doesn't charge. With effortless precision, Desire dances between the creatures. Each motion is measured, a sidestep here, a quick pivot there. She taps one slime aside with the end of her spear, creating just enough space to slip through. Not to fight, but to escape unscathed. Liberian nods approvingly. Smart. She knows slimes can't be easily cut. Instead of wasting her strength, she conserves it. Efficient and quick-witted, she's thinking ahead. Desire disappears into the darkness beyond, her path clear and her pace unbroken. The orb flickers again, now showing sign, heir of the main family. His expression is tense, but his eyes hold a quiet determination. Before him stretches a long corridor riddled with small, suspicious holes, the kind that scream trap. Cyan smirks. He's not worried. His mother made sure of that. Before the trial began, she provided him with a detailed map of the labyrinth. He and his twin, Sile, memorized every inch of it. Bending down, he picks up a pebble and tosses it casually forward. Click. In an instant, the walls erupt with the sound of flying metal. Hundreds of arrows streak down the hallway, tearing through the air, but Cyan is already smiling. The trap spent. Without hesitation, he dashes through, untouched. Liberian watches him thoughtfully. Too cautious, he says softly. But that same caution keeps him alive. Not a bad strategy, just lacking confidence. The image shifts once more, to Sile, Cyan's twin. A goblin blocks her path, snarling and raising a crude hammer. But Sile is light on her feet. Her rapier glints under the dim light as she sidesteps, her movements flowing like water. The goblin's swing cuts through empty air. Sile twists, pivots, and thrusts in a single, fluid motion, her blade piercing straight through its chest. The monster explodes into golden particles. A flawless strike. Quick, elegant, and precise. Without missing a beat, Sile continues forward, her movements sharp and composed, every step a statement of quiet confidence. Sile skips lightly down the dim hallway, her steps bright and carefree, almost playful. Every movement radiates confidence. But her momentum becomes her downfall. The passage suddenly ends in a solid wall. She blinks, realizing her mistake. A dead end. With a sigh, she spins on her heel and retraces her steps, heading back toward the fork she passed earlier. Watching from above, Liberian comments softly, Sile trusts her instincts and moves fast, but that impulsive nature could cost her. She's skilled, just not as cautious as her brother. The orb flickers again, shifting to the eldest son, Iode. He stands face to face with a goblin, his grip tight on his sword. His body trembles ever so slightly, but he doesn't back down. The creature snarls, its red eyes burning with malice. Instead of fear, wonder fills Iod's gaze. "Incredible," he whispers, almost in awe. "A monster formed from pure magic." Lost in fascination, he barely reacts in time when the goblin lunges. With a startled cry, he leaps back, managing to parry the attack at the last possible moment. Sparks explode as their blades clash. Iod recovers quickly, ducking under another swing before countering with a clean, precise slash. His blade finds its mark. The goblin dissolves into golden light, scattering into the air. Iod's face lights up with pure joy. He's not just surviving, he's enjoying this. Liberian turns to Gilad, his tone thoughtful. "That boy, he has a natural gift for magic." Gilad exhales deeply, his eyes clouded with quiet sorrow. "He's always loved magic," he admits. "But he gave it up, out of duty." Liberian frowns, confused. "Duty?" Gilad nods. He believes he must become the next patriarch, for his mother's sake. But in the Lionheart clan, founded by a hero of the sword, magic has never been truly respected. It's always stood in the shadow of the blade. Understanding dawns in Liberian's eyes. "The path of a mage is never easy," he says softly. "Still, I wish he would follow that spark in his heart." Gilad's expression hardens, but there's a glimmer of hope in his voice. If that passion is real, he won't be able to ignore it. And when the time comes, he'll accept the chance to study under the Red Tower Master. Liberian turns away slightly, his expression unreadable. "I can't promise anything," he says. "If Iod's potential proves lacking, I won't take him as a disciple. The Red Tower's standards are absolute." Gilad smiles faintly. "Of course. I wouldn't ask for favoritism. I just want him to have the chance to chase his own dream." He pauses, then adds with a quiet chuckle, "Did you know? Iod doesn't idolize Vermouth, our great ancestor. His favorite is Sienna, the wise mage." Liberian's face softens, a nostalgic warmth flickering across his features. "Ah, Sienna," he says fondly. "Even in the old tales, she was remarkable. No matter how dire things became, she'd always craft some brilliant spell to turn it around." Gilad laughs softly. "I've read those stories more times than I can count. But my favorite? It wasn't Sienna. And it wasn't Vermouth either." Liberian tilts his head, intrigued. "Oh? Then who?" Liberian's curiosity deepens. "Then who did you like best?" he asks. Gilad's smile softens, touched by nostalgia. "My favorite," he murmurs. "He was a character whose story was cut short." Before Liberian can respond, Gilad's eyes suddenly widen. He freezes, staring at one of the floating magic orbs. "What's wrong?" Liberian asks, frowning. Gilad doesn't answer at first. He simply raises a trembling hand and points. "Look at that." Both men turn to the orb, and what they see leaves them speechless. Eugene stands motionless in the center of the labyrinth, sword and shield raised. Before him towers a monster far beyond anything the others have faced, a massive, muscle-bound ogre, its eyes glowing a furious red. The creature roars, the sound rumbling through the walls. Its enormous fist, wrapped in a blazing aura of mana, comes crashing down toward the boy. Eugene doesn't move. He doesn't even blink. With perfect timing, he plants his feet and meets the strike head-on, his small round shield taking the full brunt of the blow. The impact sends a shockwave through the corridor, cracking the stone beneath him. The ogre's arm shudders, stunned by its own strength. Before it can recover, Eugene's already gone. He shoots forward like a streak of light, weaving between the ogre's legs. His sword flashes again and again, slicing through its ankles and knees in rapid succession. Each strike lands with surgical precision, breaking the creature's balance piece by piece. In the viewing chamber, silence falls. Liberian leans forward, eyes wide. "Who is that boy?" Gilad can barely breathe. His voice comes out as a whisper. "Incredible." Down below, Eugene moves without hesitation. As the ogre staggers, he drives his shield upward, slamming it into the monster's face with explosive force. The impact sends the giant crashing backward. The ground trembles. The creature disintegrates in a burst of golden light, and for a long moment, the only thing visible is Eugene, standing tall amidst the fading glow. A boy whose strength defies reason. A boy now remembered by 2 words, Eugene Lionheart. For most, facing a troll means certain death. But for Eugene, it's just another inconvenience to cut down. The massive corpse dissolves completely, leaving behind only streaks of light and the scent of battle. Eugene lowers his sword. His expression doesn't change. No triumph, no excitement, only calm detachment. To him, this was nothing more than a warm-up. In the viewing room, both Gilad and Liberian watch in stunned silence as the boy casually walks forward, disappearing deeper into the corridor. Gilad is the first to speak. Slowly, a look of disbelief gives way to a smile. "He's only 13, he murmurs. At that age, no one should be capable of fighting a troll, not with that kind of composure." But he didn't hesitate. He didn't even hesitate. Liberian's face has gone pale. That wasn't even a real opponent, he admits. That troll was meant to be a deterrent, an impossible trap. I even made it stronger than a normal one. He shakes his head in disbelief. And yet, he killed it. Effortlessly. Gilad leans back, trying to process what is seen. Perhaps he's a natural prodigy, he says slowly. A child born with extraordinary instincts. But Liberian doesn't respond immediately. His gaze remains fixed on the orb, his tone grave when he finally speaks. "You know what they call children like that, Gilad?" Gilad looks up. "There's only one word for it," Liberian says. "Genius." The word hangs in the air, echoing through the hall, heavy with meaning. Because in the Lionheart clan, that title belonged to only one man. The one who started it all. The hero whose name was legend itself, Vermouth Lionheart. And now, after centuries, they were seeing that brilliance again. That same brilliance, that spark once seen in Vermouth, now burns within Eugene. But not every gifted child can stand on that level. The scene shifts. Gargus is locked in battle with his own troll, and unlike Eugene's effortless display, this fight is brutal. The monster's colossal fist slams into him, hurling him across the chamber. The impact rattles the very walls of the labyrinth. He crashes hard but somehow drags himself back up, blood dripping from his mouth. His body's a mess, bruised, bleeding, arrows still jutting from his back after triggering traps earlier. But his eyes burn with defiance. He's not done. Not yet. With a roar, guttural roar, Gargus charges. His great sword gleams as he lifts it high, throwing every ounce of strength he has into the strike. The troll's arm swings down like a hammer, but instead of dodging, Gargus meets it head-on, sprinting up the creature's arm, his blade tearing through its thick hide. He slashes deep into its chest, green blood spraying wildly. Using his momentum, he slides down the troll's back, his sword carving a long, jagged line as he goes. Then, with one final burst of strength, he plunges his weapon deep into the creature's spine. The troll lets out a monstrous cry, a sound that shakes the air itself. Gargus roars back, every muscle straining as he forces his blade deeper, refusing to stop until the beast collapses. Finally, the giant's movements slow. Its hand falls limp. The light in its eyes fades. And then, with a thunderous crash, it's over. The monster's body dissolves into golden light, scattering like dust across the floor. Gargus drops to his knees, panting, covered in blood, his own and the troll's. Every breath hurts. His ribs are shattered. His muscles scream. But his eyes shine with stubborn satisfaction. Trolls really are strong, he mutters under his breath, grimacing. He staggers to his feet, sword dragging behind him, and pushes forward. Every step feels heavier than the last. He knows he's hurt worse than anyone else. But still, he refuses to stop. Until his body finally does. With a dull thud, Gargus collapses face first onto the cold stone floor, unconscious. The orb shifts again. Now it's Cyan's turn. He stands frozen, staring up at a troll of his own. The monster towers over him, a wall of muscle and fury. His entire body stiffens, fear gripping him tight. Something about this feels wrong. This thing doesn't belong here. It's far too strong. Then, realization flickers across his face. This isn't meant to be fought, he thinks. It's a trap. Quickly, he scoops up a rock and hurls it. The stone strikes the troll's leg with a dull thud. The creature lets out a confused snarl, turning its head just as Cyan bolts past it. In the viewing chamber, Liberian nods with quiet approval. That's exactly what he designed this test for, not brute strength, but insight. Down below, Cyan sprints through the corridor, grinning ear to ear. I did it, he thinks proudly. Outsmarted it perfectly. The troll, still confused, simply stands there, growling at the empty air. Cyan keeps running, chest puffed with confidence. Everything's going his way, until a familiar voice echoes through the hallway behind him. Big brother. Bro. It's me, Sile. Cyan spins around, eyes wide in surprise. Sile, he blurts. His little sister jogs up to him, cheerful as ever. The two finally meet in the twisting corridors of the maze. Sile looks around, scanning the stone walls and glowing runes. If we're both here, she says thoughtfully, we must be getting close to the center. Cyan straightens up, puffing out his chest. Obviously, he says, trying to sound cool and reliable. Just stick with me, and you won't get lost. Sile grins. Okay, got it, big bro. Her easy tone makes Cyan's eye twitch. The sting of his past humiliation, that crushing defeat at Eugene's hands, flashes through his mind. His fists clench. This time, he thinks, I'll show her I'm not weak. Hey, Cyan, Sile calls again. Feeling confident, he waves a hand. Go ahead, ask me anything. She looks up at him, eyes wide with innocent curiosity. Since this maze is made of illusions, that means any kind of monster could appear here, right? Cyan blinks, confused by the question. Well, of course. That's obvious. Sile leans closer, lowering her voice to a whisper. Even ghosts. Cyan freezes. A chill creeps down his spine. Ghosts, he stammers. Sile covers her mouth, trying, and failing, to hide a giggle. Don't tell me you're scared of ghosts, big brother. No, of course not. Cyan blurts, standing tall again. Don't worry. No matter what shows up, your big bro will. His words die in his throat. Something grips the corner of the wall ahead, a pale, blood-soaked hand. Then, slowly, a horrifying face with one glowing eye peers out from the darkness. Cyan's scream rips through the corridor, a high-pitched, bone-chilling shriek of pure terror. Ah! But before he can even process what he's seeing, another scream erupts, just as loud, just as terrified. Standing in the hallway, drenched in blood, is Desura. She's screaming right back at him. Sile stands between them, utterly calm, a small amused smile on her face. Desura! Cyan yells, pointing a shaking finger at her. How dare you scare me like that? Desura glares back, equally rattled. You're the one who screamed first. You scared me. You jumped out covered in blood. Cyan shoots back, glaring suspiciously. Don't tell me you planned that. Desura takes a cautious step back, waving her free hand. It's not blood. I tripped a trap. I'm injured, you idiot. Sile tilts her head, watching with mild amusement as the two argue. Meanwhile, Desura curses under her breath. Great. My ambush failed completely. She grips her spear tightly, readying herself as the twins tense up. This isn't good, 2 against 1. Big bro, she's running away, Sile shouts, pointing ahead. Cyan's jaw tightens. Damn it, he growls. Because of her, I look like an idiot again. His embarrassment boils over into fury. I won't forgive her for this. Let's go, Sile. And just like that, the chase is on. Desura sprints through the winding corridor, the furious twins right behind her. She knows full well she can't win a fight against both of them, not in her current state. Where's that musclehead when I need him? She thinks, scanning desperately for Gargus. But somewhere far behind her, Gargus is still lying unconscious on the cold floor, no help coming anytime soon. Then, the ground shifts. A loud crack echoes under her feet. Desura's eyes go wide. A trap! The floor collapses beneath her in an instant. Reacting on pure instinct, she leaps, landing on one falling slab after another, using her agility to stay ahead of the crumbling path. With a final jump, she grabs the ledge on the other side and pulls herself up, panting. Safe, barely. But behind her, the twins are relentless. Cyan skids to a stop at the edge, glaring across the gap at the girl who dared make a fool out of him. Cyan skids to a halt at the edge of the chasm. The gap stretches wide before him, far too wide to cross with a normal jump. He scans the surroundings quickly. No bridges. No hidden path. The only way across is through the impossible. Cyan watches him expectantly, her bright eyes fixed on him, almost sparkling. He can feel it, that pressure. The weight of her gaze. The unspoken challenge. He can't hesitate now. Not in front of her. Not again. A bead of sweat slides down his cheek as his expression hardens. I wanted to save this for the boss fight, he thinks, but it can't be helped. I'll have to use my mana, he says aloud, his voice low but resolute. In the next instant, a brilliant blue aura bursts to life around him. The air crackles as the ground trembles beneath his feet. With a fierce battle cry, Cyan surges forward, his mana blazing. He dashes straight toward the wall, then, using sheer speed and control, begins sprinting along it. The energy trailing behind him blurs into streaks of light. At the last second, he pushes off with all his strength, launching himself into the air. He soars across the chasm, landing solidly on the other side. The shockwave of his landing ripples through the stone floor. Cyan straightens up, turning toward his sister with a proud smirk. Cyan, jump, I'll catch you. Cyan smiles faintly, mana flaring gently around her feet. In one fluid motion, she leaps, her movement graceful, effortless. She lands beside him with perfect balance, not even needing his help. Cyan freezes for a moment, his outstretched hand awkwardly hovering midair. "All right," he stammers, quickly lowering it. "As expected of my little sister." Cyan chuckles softly. Cyan clears his throat, regaining his composure. He points forward dramatically. "Let's continue the chase." "Right behind you," Cyan replies, her voice bright with excitement. Their footsteps echo through the stone halls as the chase resumes, Cyan, and Desura weaving through the twisting corridors until, at last, they burst into a vast open chamber. The three come to a sudden stop. Standing before them is a towering figure, a massive minotaur, muscles bulging, its breath rumbling like thunder. The final guardian of the labyrinth. Cyan's eyes widen. "The boss," he mutters. Desura's grip tightens on her spear. The weight of the monster's presence fills the air, heavy and suffocating. Then, a calm, familiar voice breaks through the tension. "Why did the three of you arrive together?" They all whirl around. Leaning casually against a pillar, arms crossed, stands Eugene. His expression is relaxed, almost bored. "Eugene?" Cyan blurts out, disbelief written all over his face. "What are you doing here?" Eugene pushes off the pillar, his tone maddeningly calm. "Waiting." A faint smirk curves across his lips, the kind of smile that makes Cyan's blood boil. "I was curious who'd show up first," he says. "Looks like I got my answer." Cyan's jaw tightens. He realizes what that means. Eugene didn't just beat them to the end. He's been here long enough to wait for them. Not only did he win the race, he finished it so early that he got bored. The stage is set, but instead of an epic clash, the opening act is one of pure humiliation. The three contenders can only stare in disbelief as Cyan voices what everyone's thinking. "So, you were waiting to see who showed up first." Seal, ever quick on the uptake, pieces it together instantly. Her eyes narrow toward Eugene. "Then you were the first one here." Eugene's calm reply only fuels their frustration. "Correct." Desura, blooded and barely standing, dares to hope. If he waited for them, maybe, just maybe, he's finally agreed to team up. But Eugene crushes that idea without a hint of hesitation. He scratches his head, pretending to recall the offer. "Oh, right, that. I suppose there was some talk about teaming up." Then, with a smirk, he delivers the killing blow to her hopes. But no. I'm not teaming up. I'm letting you have the first turn. The arrogance in his voice is staggering. He explains that he could defeat the boss on his own in an instant, but that would be too tragic for the rest of them, who struggled so hard just to make it this far. He's not sparing them out of kindness, he's pitying them. Cyan's fury boils over. His sword hand trembles as he snarls, "What did you just say?" Eugene doesn't even look at him. Instead, he gestures toward the massive, dormant minotaur looming nearby. He explains that the creature won't move unless someone approaches, it's waiting. Then, with complete authority, Eugene lays down the rules. You'll fight one by one, in the order you arrived. He points at them in turn. Desira, Cyan, Seal. He finishes with a smirk. Fair enough. Desira's heart pounds. Fight it, alone? She asks, her voice barely holding steady. The thought of facing that monster by herself is terrifying. Eugene tilts his head, a mocking grin tugging at his lips. You look like you've been through hell already. You could always just give up. But Desira's pride refuses to bend. I will not give up, she declares, tearing a strip from her sleeve to wrap her wounds. She ties her hair back, eyes burning with resolve. Every muscle in her body tenses as she steps forward. It's her turn. Cyan watches her go, then turns sharply to Eugene. You're not going to fight. Eugene crosses his arms and leans back, utterly relaxed. I'll fight after all of you are done. Cyan scoffs, anger rising again. You think you'll get a turn? His voice drips with disdain. I'll be the one to defeat the boss. Eugene's grin widens, he's found a way to make things more interesting. If you manage to beat the boss, he says with a teasing glint in his eye, I'll call you all big brothers for the rest of my life. Cyan freezes, caught completely off guard by the mockery disguised as a promise. Then, a sharp, competitive grin spreads across his face. You'd better not forget those words, he warns, pointing a finger at Eugene. He's taken the bait. Hook, line, and sinker. But for now, he forces himself to sit back, barely containing his anticipation. He knows what stands before them, the Minotaur, a creature of legend. A true test of might for any warrior. He studies it closely. The beast is enormous, towering even higher than the troll he fought earlier. But fear doesn't cross his mind. To him, it's just another oversized brute, strong, maybe, but slow. The perfect target. As if sensing his thoughts, the Minotaur stirs. Its massive head lifts, and a single eye flickers open, glowing a deep, golden hue. Desira's heart tightens. Cyan might be brimming with confidence, but she knows better. From where she stands, the creature looks less like a monster and more like a living mountain of muscle and horns. For a moment, doubt creeps in. Can I even scratch that thing? But then she steadies herself. There's no turning back. Her pride as a lionheart burns too fiercely to let her retreat. With a fierce battle cry, she charges forward, spear at the ready. Her shadow stretches across the floor as her boots thunder closer to the beast. The Minotaur slams its foot down, the shockwave rippling through the stone. Desira leaps aside just in time, darting through the air with blinding agility. She circles it, weaving between its devastating swings, eyes locked on any weakness. There, an opening. She dives in, thrusting her spear with everything she has. The weapon strikes true, then stops. The tip barely pierces the skin, sinking less than an inch. Her eyes go wide. The hide is too thick. Before she can pull back, the Minotaur's colossal hand lunges out and wraps around her, its grip crushing the air from her lungs. I'm going to die. The thought flashes through her mind just before the monster hurls her like a rag doll. She flies through the air, her scream echoing through the chamber before she crashes hard into the stone. The impact leaves her sprawled on the floor, motionless. The battle is over before it even began. From the sidelines, Seal watches in confusion. Why didn't it finish her off? She asks quietly. Eugene's voice is calm, matter-of-fact. Because it's not a real monster. The moment she was caught, the result was decided. The test judged her as defeated. Cyan rises to his feet, a dangerous smirk curling his lips. My turn, he mutters, glaring straight at Eugene. His voice drips with pride and venom. I'll show you the difference between the blood of the main family and that of a collateral line. Eugene flashes him a wide, mocking grin, and that alone is enough to set Cyan off. His jaw tightens, rage burning in his eyes. You really think I can't handle that little cow? He snaps. Then open your eyes and watch carefully. With that roar, his mana bursts outward in a wave of brilliant blue light. The energy surges through his sword, coating the blade until it gleams like a shard of lightning. The air itself hums around him. This is his ultimate technique. Desira, barely conscious and still lying on the ground, stares in disbelief. That's sword ki, she whispers. A blade made entirely of mana, sharp enough to slice through anything. It's a skill so advanced, it should take 10 years of training just to begin mastering it. Her hands tremble as she watches. Is the difference between us really that great? Even Eugene can't help but be a little impressed. Oh? Sword ki at his age, he muses. Not bad. It's the closest thing to a compliment Cyan will ever get from him. Cyan, basking in his own power, smirks. I can't keep it up for long, he admits, but it'll be more than enough to carve this beast apart. Then, pop. The light vanishes. The sword returns to normal, plain and powerless. Cyan freezes, staring at it in confusion. What is this? What's happening? Eugene's grin fades, replaced by realization. He remembers the patriarch's words, a fair test, without prejudice. The labyrinth's creator, Liberian, must have set a restriction in the final chamber. A special field that nullifies offensive mana. Eugene's eyes glint with understanding. So that's it, he murmurs. No mana attacks allowed. Sword ki doesn't work here. He chuckles to himself. That means it doesn't matter who you are, main family or branch, you fight on equal ground. It's all about skill now. Meanwhile, Cyan's composure crumbles. Why isn't it working? He thinks frantically. I still have plenty of mana. Eugene leans back, clearly entertained. If you think you're going to lose, he calls out, just come back. No need to get hurt trying to prove something. Seal can hardly contain her laughter. Her eyes sparkle with mischief as she watches her brother's frustration boil over. Cyan's face flushes red with rage and humiliation. Don't make me laugh, he snaps, voice shaking with fury. You think I can't win just because I don't have sword ki? His pride completely drowns out his fear. With a roar that echoes through the chamber, he charges headlong toward the Minotaur, blade raised high, ready to fight with nothing but raw strength and stubborn will.